Hi, everybody in the room and watching. This is an informational meeting of the Augusta City Council. Today is Thursday, August 27, 2026. Let's begin our meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Nice to have a full house tonight. Let's preview tonight's agenda. As usual, Part A is persons wishing to address the City Council submitted a formal request to do so, and we don't have any of those tonight. Part B is the open comment period for any persons wishing to address the City Council, and if we have any tonight, reminder that we'll use the microphones down in the well here at the table, and if you wish to address the council, please identify yourself, where you're from, and a reminder that the open comment period is 5 minutes apiece. And then item C is we have 3 topics tonight for discussion submitted by councilors or the manager. C1 is the indoor shooting range ordinance. C2 is massage therapist licensing, and C3 is the senior tax relief program. With that, we can bypass Part A and move directly to Part B, open comment period for any persons wishing to address the City Council. I invite you to come forward.
Good evening. I'm Amanda Bartlett here from Developers Collaborative. Here to just offer some background information regarding some communication that you may have received from the city manager around the Union Street redevelopment. Most of you probably are aware that last year, we submitted an application for tax credits for the Union Street project, and we're not funded really only because we didn't have the scoring necessary to have a competitive application. And the city, of course, was not eligible at the time for points associated with having public transportation. And so we've been working now with city staff and with the city manager on some type of plan that we can very creatively put together to ensure that the needed public transportation that meets the main housing definition for the scoring is in place prior to this year's application deadline of September 17th. And so what I think may have been circulated today even is a draft kind of side letter of agreement that outlines terms through which Developers Collaborative can work cooperatively with the city to realize the goal of having public transportation in place prior to that September 17th deadline. And I know I didn't watch the most recent council meetings, but it sounds like there may have been some confusion around some flexibility in terms of the timeline to get that transportation implemented. And it feels like there have been 2 options considered, green light and KV cap, and that KV cap may have been the preferred option, and we all know that they're great, but it sounds like they just are not able to meet that deadline in terms of the tax credit application. And so I'm just asking you here tonight to please help us in any way you can. You know, we've certainly done everything we can. We've done our part at DC to work towards acquisition of the property. We're transferring the money, I think, tomorrow to make that happen. And we're doing that in good faith, hoping that you guys will meet us halfway in doing whatever you can in moving forward, hopefully with green light transportation, so that we can meet the deadline for the tax credit application and be awarded the credits needed in order for the project to be funded this year, which would mean we could start construction next year, and we'd all realize our shared goal, certainly, of redeveloping that property as quickly as possible. So really, that's it. I don't know.
Councilor Judkins?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Amanda, you may or may not know that months ago now, Councilor Morris Polly and myself advanced a proposal to the council to look at creating public transportation. This is something that I think every councilor hears on a year in, year out basis that we needed in Augusta. And so we've been working on this for some time, irrespective of when it came to our attention that you needed it for scoring points. So I think that I feel at this point we've had a long-standing commitment to try to resolve this and make this happen, not just for you. I mean, it's a smart thing, something we want to do, but this is for the good of the whole city, I remain committed to finding a resolution to that. It feels at this point, I mean, I think we actually had, if I'm not mistaken, a third party that had entered the conversation, so we've got to sit down and work all this out. Timeframes, I'm not sure. It seemed like Greenlight stated that they could make it, that kind of time frame, but I'm not sure what the conversations are with the third party that's in conversation, and it certainly, I think, behooves us to hear that out, to see where that's at as well, because again, we've got to make the best decision for the city, which I'm committed and intent to do, but getting transportation and resolving this whole thing certainly is one thing that I support and committed to, just so you know that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yep. And I think too, just to mention that the side letter, which I think may have been revised since the version that you folks have seen, it's been a little further simplified, but we're certainly open to any creative solution. So if there needs to be a bus, and we can purchase a bus and then be reimbursed for it, I mean, we're kind of willing to do anything at this point to make it happen. And maybe there's a possibility for a contract now with one entity and then maybe make a longer term plan for the future, that might look a little different. I certainly can't make that decision for all of you, but I just wanted to share that it's really important to us. We've made a huge financial investment, Kevin has personally in this, and we want to make sure the project is successful, and also hopefully everyone can make good on their promises here, so.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hi, Amanda. Thanks for coming in. And I would just add to it too, because I've had talks directly with Kevin Bunker, the owner of Developers Collaborative, and that's been the feverish work we've been doing in the last 2 days, because as you all know, Greenlight was an absolute viable option. Once again, Mr. Carney, when I called him, connected with Kevin, they came up with something that could meet the deadline. They understand, or Kevin is aware of what happened last week with KB Cap and the other options, but I think he hasn't sent along the latest agreement yet, so they don't have that. But I think over the weekend, we'll take a look at that. Cam will be back from vacation, and perhaps something will be on next week's agenda for you to all look at. But I think essentially what Amanda's saying is, Kevin, or Developers Collaborative, could work directly with Greenlight. They have the ability to provide the service that would give them the points for their application. So in trying to help this project along, the plan would be to try to get something, because Mr. Bunker knows it's a number one priority of the council. We're all committed to public transportation. It's just twofold now. As Councilor Judkins said, the city making the best decision for transportation moving forward, and at the same time, meeting that September 17th deadline. So if there's a way to do both, we're very fortunate to have Greenlight, because this person is just willing to do whatever it takes to help. And he's just come through time and time again. So I will work over the weekend to have something for all of you to take a look at, and perhaps get something on an agenda next week to take a vote on as we put things together. So thank you, Amanda, and to Kevin as well.
Councilor Lynn?
My only concern as I'm sitting listening to this is, if I recall, KV Cap said they were working on some federal sourcing. I just want to make sure whatever we do, we don't inadvertently trip them up. So like you're dealing with state applications, I don't know what's on, I don't know their process, but if some point there's a check where it says, is there another entity? They check yes, green light. I don't want to inadvertently sidetrack them. And in all fairness to the taxpayers, we have a third person too, so it's a balance right now. I don't want to, again, don't want to trip up KV Cap and what they've got, so I think we need to be communicating with them as well.
Yes, no, I think that's definitely it. This would be, something that would perhaps, if we could facilitate in the short term, if it's the cost of a bus or whatever that be, that will be presented to you all to make a decision. But long term, it may turn out to be green light. It may turn out that they're the best, but we'll vet all three. And to your point, communicate with KV Cap.
Right.
And let them know tomorrow what we're working on.
'Cause I don't know what their process is, and I don't know what subjective criteria they're dealing with either.
Right.
So, all right.
Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Amanda. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for working with us through this process. I think we all have talked about transportation for a long time in many iterations, and my question comes back to something you mentioned about a short-term contract. September 17th is very, very soon, and it needs to be in place, the public transportation. Is that the misunderstanding that you were alluding to earlier?
Yes.
Do we know if there is a possibility of entering into a short-term contract while we work out a long-term contract?
Yeah, I think anything is possible working with Corporation Counsel. I mean, it was initially discussed that perhaps that Developers Collaborative would work directly with Green Light, and it would be a side type of arrangement until we came to the full term of the agreement that would check the box for their transportation, knowing that we will undoubtedly are committed to public transportation and using the funds from the sale of 33 Union Street, which we'll have tomorrow, to facilitate public transportation, but to a couple councilors' points, the best transportation for the city. So I think that is the possibility, and that's what I would be looking at and working on this weekend, once I get the proposal with Cam, to see if we can somehow basically accomplish both. But that's obviously going to be brought to all of you to make that decision, how we move forward.
Yeah, I appreciate all the work you've done, all the emails on top of everything else that has gone on this week. And I am very much in favor of doing what needs to be done within this time frame. This is I want to have my cake and eat it too moment of, I want it for this, and then make that best decision in the long term. Both of these things, this building, the longer it sits, right? It's already in the condition it was in when we vacated, and the potential of that building is so huge for our community. So that is a very high priority for me, in addition to the long-term priority of reliable, safe, cost-effective transportation for the public in Augusta. So thank you.
What's that? Okay. Thank you.
Can you tell that I've been jumping at the bit for this? So my name is Camille DeSoto. I have owned and lived on and off 17 Florence Street in Augusta for the past 15 years. And so today I'm here to really talk about three issues. And because of time limitation, I'll just focus primarily on one. The others, I will do a request to speak at length through the normal process. So first of all, I have to say, it's really an exciting time for Augusta. I mean, it's a great city. always has been. Great bones, a lot of things going on, the Capitol Heights development. And, but I think that it's going to require, just very strong management in the future, especially since the Capitol neighborhood was selected as an opportunity zone, and the standing opportunity zones expire December 31st, 2026. There will be a flush of money that will be released with that first set of opportunity zone tracks and the funds, distributing the money out of those funds. And then the new set starts January 1st, 2027, and that specifically includes the Capitol neighborhood where I live. And as you know, Florence Street is about 2 blocks away from the state capitol, as well as the Blaine House. And so the key issue that I really want to talk about tonight is the fact that it's become a really crime-infested area. And at some point in time, it really needs to be dealt with, especially because of the proximity to the Capitol. You have 20 Florence Street Place that has sat abandoned for close to, I think, 10 years. 15 Florence Street, right next door to me, had been sitting empty for about 6 years, and then finally it just finished being rehabbed. And then specifically, 19 Florence Street on the other side of me, it's a multi-unit that has 3 units with an on-site landlord named Matthew Miner. This multi-unit has been the driving force behind all of that crime in the area. The vagrants that have been selling the drugs and squatting and terrorizing out of 20 Florence Street Place, as well as a lot of the gangs in the area, the drug dealing, the car thefts, the hacking, the terrorizing. And most recently, actually it was last week, I took the on-site landlord, Matthew Miner, to court in the Kennebec County District Court, and I was awarded by the judge a PFH against this on-site, what I call a slumlord, meaning that he has consistently supported criminal activity. And I believe that Chief Lilly can, I'm sorry, is it Lily or Lully? Lily. Chief Lilly. There was one of the biggest drug busts at 19 Florence Street of this year in 2026. I saw it right before my eyes. It was like 4 to 6 police cars all at once, 2 ambulances, and they cleared house in the lower level rental unit of 19 Florence Street. And I guess they shut it down. I wasn't told what happened afterwards, but it's not been rented ever since that huge drug bust. And that definitely calmed down things, except for the fact that Darren Hamlin, who I've had a standing PFH against, the other tenant, okay, the one and only remaining tenant, who is a Section 8 tenant, that lives in a unit that has clear vision of my backyard and front yard and is less than 10 feet away from the entrance to my house. Now, this man has assaulted me, terrorized me, sexually threatened me, chased me when I was a census worker on Florence Street with intent to assault me, stolen 2 cars from my driveway. He had terrorized me, intimidated me, my friends, my family. I believe he's behind the gang that's been tampering with my car and hacking all of my devices and doing all sorts of things. And this man, and actually he was prosecuted through the district attorney for 4 different counts. He's never, in all of this, he's admitted, I took him to court numerous times for violations of his PFH. He's never served 1 day in jail. never been arrested. I mean, my home state of Missouri, which, as you know, is a sister state to Maine, okay, would have thrown him in prison years ago. Okay. I don't know what's going on with the state of Maine. I mean, Missouri would recognize it as grand larceny, assault, sexual, criminal mischief, sexual threatening, all of it. And I've had witnesses and this PFH and even the district attorney involved, never a day in jail, never arrested. I called Section 8, actually Augusta Housing Authority, when the woman that was here, Amanda Bartlett, had that up. Spoke to her about it because apparently he was,
So you're already over 6 minutes now, so
Oh, okay.
if you could come to your
I'll wrap it
conclusion.
up. So, okay, in closing, I'd say, I'm asking the city council to deem it a nuisance property, because that's the next step that I'm doing if the city council doesn't. Or a disorderly house, so that he's unable to rent those units. The on-site, landlord will have to, make do without the rental income. I'm asking that. I'm also, in closing, asking for the city council to take a look at what happened with the Stover land, 60 acres on Togus Pond, because, and it's listed as 2 Stover's Way in Augusta, for sale on Zillow. And as Jared Mills know, because we discussed it, you've got a real mess on your hands. And at some point in time, that's going to be a real problem, because from what I can see, he's just set up a prison compound there. And you don't know, and mobile homes and all sorts of things. And, so I would ask you to do that. And then on a positive note, thank you for deciding to build a shelter, because I'll tell you right now, okay, as Capital neighborhood gets gentrified, same thing will happen as the historic district. 300 people were dumped on the streets through the gentrification of the historical district. Now the historical district is beautiful. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in the whole entire state, right there, the historic district. Well, same thing's going to happen with the Capital neighborhood. It's going to be gentrified, and you're going to have 300 more people dumped on the streets. So I appreciate that. And if I can give any type of insight, what I would challenge all of you to do is go visit the Mid-Maine Homeless Shelter in Waterville, okay? It's won awards, won federal funding, has an incredible reputation for recycling people out of poverty and building our workforce. So we want the exact same thing here. So thank you,
Thank you.
City Council, for serving the demographics.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it.
Oh, yeah,
sure,
after
yeah.
you press. Hi,
Hi.
I'm Jane Whiteside. I'm going to just sort of have a segue to this. I didn't know this was going to be the presentation. Just a few things positive. I'll probably be using my 5 minutes. At the library, I entered the contest, and I really appreciate the activities at the library. I had a poster, Experiential Clarity Seed Idea Inspired by AI. So I always like and enjoy all the library activities. The former speaker was talking about the Mid-Maine Homeless Shelter, and I have experience. I had an internship there about 10 years ago. So if you have any information on that, I'd be willing to share from that time period. I would still like to talk about sort of things like not so much nuisance properties, but concerns about everything sort of linking in my topic, which is restaurants and fast food. It is a gray area, and concerns, you see them locally, sometimes it involves alcohol, sometimes it doesn't. These environments are usually where people have more concerns, sometimes the workers with alcohol and drugs, stress, fast food, irregular schedules, low wages, jobs insecurity. They even talked about it on a C-SPAN book festival this week. I gave you guys a segment on that, so you could really good summarize to somebody that was in the audience to ask a question. I know you're going to be talking about rules, the massage parlors, but I just wanted to, I was looking at that and I was saying that, you're clarifying that. And I just wanted some clarification about something that relates to the restaurants. And I know that there's an interaction between Maine Health, just how all this coordinates, records, discussion of the city council, coordination with the Maine Health Inspection Service, and coordination with the police, all this going together. I had a question I sent you the copy, and it has to do with chapter 229, sanitation officer. It has something specific. It says a time frame. It says it's part B, act on complaints and make inspections for health and safety in eating establishments or in places that have, a public eating event. And then it specifically says in this, right in your rules right now, as it states, it says 3 times a year. So I'm wondering, I don't see anything, a discussion, I see about the food sovereignty code, but I don't see anything about a discussion or on much on the records that are taken, any discussion of this on a regular basis by the city council, anything that has concerns about coordination with that Maine Health Inspection Service, which is the food safety, and then the coordination a lot of times with police about how these establishments are running. It's sort of the same issue with like a nuisance property. It's becoming more of a more concern, not just in this area, but also nationwide about what you see in the media. So I'm hoping to hear about that, and I'm hoping things like the nuisance property and business establishments that are more concerns legally with the police, we have more of a coordinated effort on that. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Morse Polly?
Yes, yeah, I just wanted to do a couple of follow-ups on that. When we're looking at a property that continues to have some problems, are we really calculating and looking at the code and whether or not code's been there and whether there's any deficiencies on that, or if how many times the police are going, what those calls look like? And if we do find those as above the average or significantly above the average, what is our process for that?
Thank you. So you're talking about two different things. If it's a property nuisance upkeep issue, beautifully, we have our code officer and our police chief, but I think I can answer for them to streamline this, and if there's anything I missed, they can come up. But obviously, codes deals with all of the property maintenance issues. If there's a public health hazard, safety, the fire department gets involved. Steve Leach is our health officer, who would be the person that Jane is talking about, that is designated in the city to look at those things, and they work in conjunction with the code bureau, and they're the ones that handle that portion of it, and they do keep records of each property, how many times they're visited, and things like that. That's all public information, and people can get that. On the nuisance, loud noise complaints, things like that, we have the disorderly house, as Jane mentioned as well. I think she did, somebody did. And the chief is here. If there's 8 or more founded complaints in a 30-day period, then what happens is the police department starts a disorderly house action by, if it's a landlord, it's a rental property, the owner's contacted, and the police department works with the landlord to resolve the issue. And that might mean an eviction process, that might mean some sort of other intervention to solve the problem long-term. I can tell you that the police are always happy when there is a landlord or a property owner, it could be a house too, is willing to work with them. When the person doesn't work with them and ignores anything, they can begin to fine them, and I forget that dollar amount after that for so many days or calls. So there is action. very successful when I was the police chief. I know the chief still uses that to this day to resolve those types of issues, and all of those are documented in police reports and are subject to public information and FOIA as well.
Okay. So if we have a neighbor who has a concern, they have the ability to access that information and know that this is a property that is being handled according to the policies that we have in place.
Yeah, it's not like posted on a website where they could go to, but they could call, like both Ms. DeSoto and Ms. Whiteside, the two people primarily with the things they brought up tonight are sitting in this room, and they can call them directly. I know the city council, it's good to hear this, but you have no, you don't go out and investigate and look at these things. We would direct the folks in the room to look at those. So while it's good that they come in and you know what's happening, they're the ones who actually look into this, and then it's public information when you go. So they can contact them directly and have those discussions.
I think that had happened. It sounded like she'd spoken to Chief Lully, and so that's why I was asking if she's here talking with us. You know, maybe that's something that needs to be followed up on a little bit more for that purpose.
They follow it up.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Please come forward.
Mary Saunders, Wildwood Road, Augusta. I really miss the recycling option up at Public Works. I read on the city's excuse me, website that Public Works is looking into some sort of an alternative recycling arrangement, single stream, something that could be done in conjunction with garbage pickup. I was wondering if there was any news about that, a status update or anything?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, Mary, great question. We are in talks with a company called MWS out of in the northern Maine, Bangor, Hamden area that has that ability to. They have what's called the digester that separates the recyclables out of everything that goes in the rubbish can. So we are working with that company as a possible solution to that type of recycling portion, if you will. As for those who don't know, the recycle bin at Public Works was eliminated with about a $53,000 a year savings but we still do have it at Hatch Hill, so there is that option. What we did find is we didn't really have some good monitoring of the bin at Public Works as well, so there were people who were using that bin who weren't part of Augusta or our participating locations. So at Hatch Hill, it's much more regulated to make sure the folks who are using it are actually able to use it, and we actually report back to the state where each tonnage comes from or the items that are dropped off. But I'm getting a little off tangent, but yeah, to answer your questions, we are well down the road of discussions. I actually was in a meeting with the Public Works Director last week or this week, and we actually had a discussion. We met with DEP this week as well, so that's discussions that are happening as well.
Thank you very much for the update.
Thank you, Mary. Is there anybody else who'd like to participate in the open comment period? All right. We're going to move directly to Part C then. And C1, the indoor shooting range ordinance. Councilor Lynn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this has been a long time in the making, and I want to thank the Planning Board, Development Services, namely Matt and Nazar, and the Planning Office. We're at a point where we have in front of us a licensing ordinance. I've read through it today a couple times. I just have two typos and then one suggested language change. On page 9, if you go from the top of the page, you go down to subparagraph 8. And this is H8. actually. Prohibition on sale or consumption of alcohol and drugs. No alcohol or illegal drugs shall be sold or consumed on the premises. I'd like to add in there, I'd like to cover cannabis. I think this may have been written prior, or the language taken prior to us legalizing cannabis in Maine. And then I did notice it went from H to K. It's missing paragraphs I and J, so just a formatting issue there. And then under M2, first sentence just says 1 year periods. It just should be 1 year period. M2, right there, Jared.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. Other than that, it was a lot of work, both by the planning board, Matt, and I don't know where, there was a gentleman that had asked me, T&K Tactical, to put this forward. I haven't heard much from the owner lately. I don't know if he's still pursuing this, but we did our due diligence and responded to a business in town that wanted it. I want to thank everyone for working on it. That's all I had to offer. I think it's good to move forward.
Yep. Other councilors want to discuss? Councilor Segowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Lind, you took the words out of my mouth with cannabis. That was highlighted to me as well as I read through it. I had a couple of questions that I don't necessarily disagree with, but wanted to understand the rationale behind. One was the minimum age. Is that a state requirement, the 8 years old? I just would want to know why we chose that age. And the other was, I think this was part of our process, but I might have forgotten why alcohol and cannabis licenses come to us, but the indoor shooting range stays at the clerk unless there's an appeal.
So the first question would be, and Rob's going to be our designee for Matt. Chief, could you go open that door for me, please? Matt's going to be the designee or Rob's going to be the designee for Matt on this, but I can answer the age part. That's exactly it for handling firearms and discharging them and that type of thing. The second question on, what was that question again?
Why,
Oh.
it's in, which page?
Yeah,
When it talks about the licensing process, page 5.
Yep.
This stays with the licensing board and the city clerk, and alcohol and cannabis sales come to us.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, I couldn't remember if that was part of our process or if that was something separate.
I believe that was part of the planning board process. I know there are many licenses that don't come to you. More licenses don't come to you than do. We could certainly add this one, but we haven't had any indoor shooting ranges. But Rob, you may have some insight.
No, yeah, there's a number of licenses that are, some that are handled entirely by the licensing board, and some that do come here. I'm not aware of any reason why this wouldn't come to you after the licensing board has made its initial approval.
Right.
Yeah, I, like I said, don't need it to, but was curious why some do and some don't. And I don't think we need to have all of them come to us for sure.
Just the way it's always been done.
Okay, yeah. I would heartily second Councillor Lynn's recommendation about adding cannabis to that paragraph to be as clear as possible. But other than that, really appreciate the work that was done here, and think that it serves everyone involved quite well, and that this is good work done. Thank you.
Others? So you made notes about Councilor Lynn's edits.
I did. The only thing I'll do is talk with Cam on the proper wording for cannabis, or if he wants to change that to a kind of an overall, intoxicants or impairment, however he wants to word it, we'll let Cam do that. And we'll have Cam add an H in there from his document that he looked at, so. You're right.
All right, so when that's ready, it'll come to council for an order.
Yes, Mayor and Council, what do we want to sponsor? Excellent,
Sounds
we'll have it
fine.
on an agenda.
All right, C2 is the massage therapist licensing, Mr. Manager and Mr. Overton.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll turn this over to Rob real quickly. He had provided you a memo and some deficiencies he had noticed with state law compared to our ordinance, which was most likely written before the state law. And I'll let Rob kind of explain why he believes we should be more consistent.
Sure. So we were just going through an exercise of looking at our licensing procedures, mainly trying to tackle some businesses that are not licensed, although may not be causing any known problems. And in it, we found language within the licensing of massage establishments and massage therapists that seems to exempt anybody holding a license from the Maine Department of Professional and Financial Regulation from having to be licensed by the city. Now, they license, that State Department license a number of occupations, from architects, engineers, plumbers, massage therapists, barbers, and it seems to exempt all of them from holding this license. And I think it's just due to the age of the ordinance predating the requirement for massage therapists to hold a state license. And we're concerned that with that language, we may not be able to effectively enforce this ordinance. My conversations with the city clerk and Chief Lully, we do believe it's important to continue to license these establishments, and we would like to work with the manager's office and CAM to amend this ordinance so that we can enforce it effectively.
Sounds pretty straightforward, councilors.
What was, may I? I already did, right? Was there a background component to this too, Rob, or was that something separate that we talked
So
about?
in it, there's just, when the ordinance references a state law that's been repealed and replaced regarding criminal background checks, through this process, we would clean things like that up as well to reference the appropriate state law. In the ordinance right now, there's an editor's note, but the ordinance language itself references a law that has since been repealed.
Councilor Sinkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rob, can you highlight for me which way you think that it would be best to go? The way I read your memo is that we could either start carving out some of these or potentially remove the exemptions overall. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're not sure that we need to have an exemption here. We cannot predict a scenario where we would be approaching a medical practitioner and saying that what they are doing with their patients has crossed into massage therapist activity. I just don't think that that's necessary. I'm not sure why those exemptions were ever put in there. Chiropractors, physical therapists, people with actual medical degrees, we're not, their activities certainly don't, I think, lend themselves to be scrutinized by us.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So what I'm hearing is that the functioning of a massage establishment is inherently different than a medical establishment in terms of code enforcement's involvement with them, and that this may actually be more confusing than helpful to have the exemptions there.
Yes, and just an effort to simplify the ordinance.
Yeah, I think I would be in favor of striking the exemptions, especially as more occupations are licensed through the state. It seems like this might be something we have to visit over and over again, and if it's not useful, then we should not have it. Thank you.
Councilor Gary Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. However, Rob, the alternative could be true, right? So like a Joe Schmo could open a shop and be more likely to be crossing into massage therapy that you would want to be able to regulate than a doctor.
I think the activities of your Joe Schmo are more concerning than someone who is risking their medical license.
I would
in
be,
these type of establishments.
I would be highly in favor of that. Thank you.
Others? Is there sentiment among the council to have them pursue this, coming up with some language or deleting it altogether, whatever their recommendation may be? Yes,
Excellent. Mayor and
pursue that.
council, thank
Yep.
you.
thank you. Finally, C3, I'm sorry, is Senior Tax Relief Program. Councilor Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to thank Christy for sending this out. And I want to start by saying that, I won't be around next year. So what I'm offering to take into consideration here is something that a majority of you will, if it goes through, will be dealing with. And when I read through this, what I liked from, I think, a fiscal standpoint is it, as presented, presents an authority to grant tax relief, not necessarily binding. It's contingent upon funding. And so scenarios I've been through in the 9 years I've been here, we've passed some budgets that were 0% of an increase or 1%. That would not really be a concern. This year, I think a couple of times I use the word gut-wrenching. This population that's described here, 65 years of older, receiving a tax credit on a main residence property tax fairness credit program, commonly called the circuit breaker, and then, income that didn't exceed the median household. I mean, I think the average Social Security check in Maine was $2,073. We're talking about 3.6% of our population that we could help. The city manager, I think, or maybe Christie used the example of $100, $69,000 out of that budget. I don't know. I think we may have been able to find that this year. And some people would submit, well, what's $100? Well, from my standpoint, personally, I think that's a lot. It's one less trip to a food bank. It's possibly 3 co-pays for someone at a medical office. It's medication perhaps for a month. I like the management controls that are in place. I read through it. I just wasn't sure about the sequencing, if it would fit our process where it talks about the program administrator determining the amount of property tax assistance sought by the applicants, and there's some dates, April 15th, and I don't know if that would work with our process, but I'd like to at least start the discussion amongst the council that is, this is something you'd like to have on the books as an authority should we, have to pass a 5% tax increase with a reval, that we could at least reach 3%. And that's who's eligible. That is not even who's applying. Less than 3% of our population, to provide a little bit of tax relief for those folks that have been here for a long time, at least 10 years in our city, and are over the age of 65. So that's my pitch. I like the draft ordinance. I like Auburn's, but again, I think the sequencing and the details of it probably need to be worked into our process, where I would foresee maybe the city manager making a recommendation in the budget, and then the city, the council could say we can't afford, the 150 he's asking, maybe we could afford 10,000. How would that work out? But at least have it as an option. That's kind of where I'm coming from. So looking forward to feedback and again, I won't be here next year. So I'm laying this on all of you. I would have liked to have that authority this year. I really would have. I would have been, felt quite comfortable arguing for a little bit to try to help those folks that are on fixed incomes that have been here for a long time, trying to make ends meet. And it's hard to find a second job when you're elderly. So thank you, or a job. Thank you.
Discussion? City Manager.
And if I could just give a little backdrop for the folks watching at home too, that this was modeled after Auburn. This is Auburn's
Yes.
ordinance. So they passed this, and I will say the way in which they fund that is it's dispersed to the other taxpayers. There's not a fund set aside that we would cover. It's funded. You're looking at me funny, so I'll let you jump in. But it's my understanding that it's not there's no reimbursement from the state. It's funded at the local level.
Correct.
Whatever is taken off, the bills goes. There's a shift. Okay, I wanted to make sure.
I've talked to Saco and Brunswick as well, and it's usually a reimbursement program. So we can't, taking it off is more like an exemption, which is not something that the city's allowed to do, but we can start a reimbursement program.
Right.
So while I have the mic, there's a lot involved. It would have to be written into ordinance. You would have to approve that. as Councilor Lynn said, it could be funded or not be funded on an annual basis. You could decide not to fund it. There were essentially a very similar amount, and what I had written in were estimates.
Yep.
And so for Brunswick and Saco, they were about 175 for both, 175 qualified applicants that were receiving reimbursement. And so they each, both of those cities similarly put aside almost $200,000 annually. And so that was dispersed, not exactly equally, it's income based. So if you make a little bit less, then you would get a little bit more, that sort of thing. There's a lot, this is really just the basics to start the conversation, because that biggest question is, it's fully funded with no reimbursement. So that would be a cost. So I got a couple inquiries during the revaluation, and so I asked Manager Mills about it, and he asked me to write this up. So it was inquiries from property owners about a senior tax assistance program.
So this program is authorized under state law, allowing communities to implement such a program. But it's not funded by the state. Did I see a hand? Councilor Austin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a good question to ask on this, and we probably won't get an answer tonight, but what would be the burden on the staff to administer a program like this, to develop an application, to review applications, to verify income, process? I think that's going to factor into the cost of administering this program if we're talking about budgeting it every year and passing that cost on to the other taxpayers, which is, I think, what you're saying, that's how it would be funded, right? So I think that's something, we would want to have a fair understanding of before moving forward with voting to do this at any time if we're authorized to.
Councilor Singwitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Christy. Thank you and Councilor Lynn for bringing this forward for us to discuss. I was wondering if every municipality that you've seen is age restricted, if this is always a senior.
Yes.
And is that, the way that I read the municipal authority, it seemed unclear that it had to be. Does it have to be age restricted?
This particular one that we're discussing, yes.
Okay.
Because it's a senior tax assistance.
Okay.
I think that there's an expansion of what the municipalities are allowed to do, but this is what was brought to me, and that's what I shared. So that's why I only shared that.
Great. Yeah, I would be interested in understanding if it must be age restricted. This subsection 6232 to me read that the municipality may choose to restrict the program to persons who meet minimum age requirements as long as the minimum is not less than 62 years of age. I didn't fully understand how to read that sentence, and I would be interested in understanding, especially with income restrictions, if young families in the city also qualified, because I think that is a conversation worth having as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
I interpreted it, I guess I was making an assumption, but you are correct, and so that's copied right from the law.
Yeah.
So
I could see it being interpreted either way, and I am not a lawyer. So when I read that, it brought a question to my mind of, if we're going to talk about this, I want to talk about all the options and then decide going forward what is the best for the city.
Okay. I did receive copies or links to the other ordinances. So all of them are a little bit different. There were age requirements at a certain, age and income requirements, and those could be changed with ordinance changes as well. So one town had it at a the income requirement lower and then ended up raising that, which opened up, there were more participants and a bigger amount put aside for that. So that I think it warrants a lot of discussion. So I can certainly share whatever information I've gotten so far. I can certainly get more if there's more interest in going forward with it. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. The other part that was not as clear to me was the rental assistance component. When I read the law component part of the memo, it must provide benefits for both owners and renters of homesteads. And then I lost it a little bit in the rest of it. If we go forward with something like this in the city, would that also be a component of this? Would we need to accept applications from renters and go about that as well?
I think there's some wording that says that what they pay towards rent would constitute an equation of equal to what they would pay in taxes. So it would help them with their rent.
And that's something that we have access to at this point, or would we have to set up another system?
So it would be one application, as far as I know, but it would be, you would check off whether it be for rental or homeowner. And again, it's a lot to delve into and try to work out.
Yeah, that would be something that I would be interested in understanding better is how, we are a city that has quite a lot of rentals. And so if we are going into this and opening, it sounds like we must open to both homestead, like property, single family, and renters.
Yes.
How we go about creating that system so that it is not an undue burden on staff time, or we at least understand what staff time it would take up.
Sure.
Thank you.
Councilor Morse-Polly?
Yes, thank you. I think I'm not sure whether this ordinance that Auburn has here came out of their homeless task force, but one of the recommendations on their homeless task force was to look at addressing these issues with the elderly as potential homelessness before it occurs. And so, some of my thoughts and just kind of listening is that, that when they become homeless, we have an increase in cost on our police department, on our EMS. And so the cost of administering this and coming up with things may be far less of a cost than an individual becoming homeless, especially an elderly individual. And when I look and I think about age, I really think about, individuals who can't work because of their age. So I'm a little hesitant to really think about, middle-aged families who are able to gain employment in some fashion. And certainly, I think looking at other funding sources and making sure that if we do go down through this, that all other funding sources have been exhausted prior to this. I didn't really read too much into the rent. I think that's a big question for me because I'm not sure how we reimburse tax money that's not necessarily tax money with the rent. So that's kind of, gray area for me. I think we'd want to look into that. Just my thoughts on it.
Of course. Yeah, I was surprised as well, but it says it has to be opened to both homeowners and renters if you were to incorporate a program.
Councilor Lind?
Just want to address a couple points. So to Council Austin's concern, Christy, I think if somebody has qualified for the Property Tax Fairness Credit Program with the state, that may complete quite a bit of the requirement.
The criteria, yeah.
Yeah, the criteria may be met with that application and vetted by the state prior to coming here, which may alleviate some of the perception of having to screen that thoroughly. There may be just a few additional checks there.
Would that also satisfy the median income formula
I
for
don't
the city
know.
that's written in here?
I don't know.
I don't think it
know
would
that.
do both, but anyway, yeah.
I just, I knew we weren't going to get anywhere final tonight. I just wanted to throw this out there at a macro level. I really did. I wanted to say, it would be nice to have that authority, just to have that as an option. And, in all fairness to Councilor Sinkowitz, I'm going to stay with my feeling it should be 65 or older, just I know a lot of folks in that category. Be in that category in 4 months. Hard to find a job, hard to move around. There's a reason why we have the housing the way we have it set up in the city. That's the population that was talking to me. That's the population that was freaking out. I'm going to talk from the heart. That's the population that has a lot of pride. That's the population sending up at the food bank they never thought they would. And that's to us. And I was thinking about the people that came down to testify. I could close my eyes and see half a dozen of them standing here talking about that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I just wanted to give everybody an option. And I thank Christy for raising it. It's a lot of work between now and whenever it goes. I probably won't be here, but I just wanted to throw it out there and keep it going. You know, we say be kind. Well, there's a chance to be kind. So thank you.
So there are some questions that have been around the table. Is this something that we want to have staff come back with some more of the answers, to some of the questions they have, and bring it up at another informational meeting setting? Would that be a good way to approach this, Councilor Judkins?
Yeah, especially the dynamics around how the rental portion would work. We need to have a much better understanding about that. So, but this is worth doing. We have very little tools in our toolbox to do anything like this, and whether we would decide to do it or not, you know, be a moment in the time when we're at. But to have it, I think, would be a kind and appropriate thing.
So it's not quite ready for prime time, not quite ready for a business meeting, but we'll do some more work on this and revisit it. Right? Sounds good? Thank you, Councilor Lynn. Thank you, Christie.
Thank you.
So those are all the topics we had listed for tonight. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up? Councilor Lynn?
I just want to remind everybody we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of 9/11. It's been a fast 25 years. It was a day that changed my life forever. So you'll hear me again next week say it, and you'll hear me again say it. So just keep that in mind.
Councilor Lilly?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just kind of talking a little bit more about the property tax here, specifically for seniors, but for all residents. As we know, the tax bills are available online, and those are going to be hitting mailboxes soon. But and unless I'm wrong, is the tax club deadline the 31st?
I know it was extended, and Kelly's not here, but I can get you that, and we can put that out on social media again.
I was talking to somebody this week, and we were talking about that, and they were, although they could find their information for their bill online, they were looking for the actual paper copy along with the club deadline. As of right now, it still looked like it was the 31st online.
I'll follow up with that. I do know it was extended, so I'll get you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. School starts for Augusta on Monday, and I hope that everyone will use a little extra caution on the roadways. We in Augusta are very fortunate that we have not made the news the way other municipalities have over the last year or so in Maine with incidences with kids in buses and roadways. So when you see those buses, the best thing to do is stop. If you're concerned, if you don't know what you should do, stop. And the kids are gearing up. We had really successful open houses this past week. We had some events at different schools around, introducing kids back to school or to school for the first time, and just really looking forward to a good school year for Augusta schools and their kids. I also wanted to highlight that the library finished their summer reading, and the Masons were able to gift 14 bikes to kids that completed summer reading in conjunction with the Go Library this year, which is fantastic to get kids reading and outdoors over the summer. So thank you to everyone for that. And I know that our longtime library worker did not want to be recognized at council, but I'm going to do it anyway. Miss Kate, 27 years at the library. Today was her last day. And I am one of many generations of families that Miss Kate has helped raise my kids. So thank you, Kate. We will miss you and we love you.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, you've been doing some research.
Well, first I would say that Earl Kingsbury and I did attend her gathering, and she got a plaque and a jacket, so we thanked her for her service, and she's wonderful. Yes, so my marketing and communications person monitors this. Your answer to your question, sir, is September 30th is the deadline for the tax club. It's normally August 31st. It's been extended to September 30th. Thank you, Haley.
Anything else? Oh, Council Gary Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is my first time returning to council since my son was hit 5 weeks ago, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank the city staff who arrived on scene on Bangor Street to care for my son. I'm going to get a little emotional. To the police officers who were on the scene within seconds, if not minutes, to the EMT officer, professionals who transported him to the Augusta hospital, and to the city manager for calling right away, and to all of my fellow counselors for checking in with us over the last 5 weeks, and to all of the citizens of Augusta who have reached out to my family. Thank you. We have a phenomenal city who helped my son, and, you know, there's a lot of work to ensure that our roads are safe for all young people, all bikers and whatnot, but that's a conversation for another day. So for today, I extend my gratitude to the full city of Augusta for all that you've done for my family over the last 5 weeks. He is home, he is stable, and he started his PT yesterday, and he's starting to be able to stand pretty solidly. So he will walk again, and we look forward to that day. So thank you.
We hope his recovery is quick and complete, so. Anyone else? All right, we are adjourned for tonight. Thank you very much, everyone.
You got to